this pop out chat. Down here. All right. My other two YouTube channels are live. Okay, we can continue.
To explore in a Star Wars movie.
Hello?
This is what we call authorship. Whenever a writer or director or an author creates a story, how much of their beliefs is represented in the film? If we look at a movie like, say, Captain America Brave New World, would you say that movie has authorship behind it? Does that movie have anything to say that represents Julius Ona's values? I don't think so. Now, if we look at a movie like, say, Batman v Superman, does that movie have authorship behind it? I would argue it does. You can spend hours watching Zack Snyder talk about the characters and the themes of that movie. He clearly put a lot of thought into it. The Star Wars prequels are movies that are rooted with authorship. The ideas in those movies represent George Lucas through and through. With that being said, it's not the ideas that people debate about with this trilogy, it's the execution of those ideas. I once said something about the Zack Snyder DC films, and I feel like I can apply the same quote to the Star Wars prequels. Depth doesn't equal quality. I watched a movie and I thought it was fine. It was enjoyable, but there was a lot left to be desired. After I watched the movie, I read up on the movie because I was curious. I learned about the director and all the ideas he had about the movie. I learned that the director thought of a deeply intertwined character arc for the protagonist. An arc where the character suffers with trauma, where the character is manipulated, where they struggle with abandonment and loss, and plenty of other things. I think to myself, wow, this is really interesting stuff. I like what the director has to say. I do some more research and I learned that the director wanted to use the film to explore complicated political issues such as democracy, fascism, and oppression. I say to myself, oh my god, the director put a lot of work into the themes of this movie. I love the passion. I then proceed to spend hours researching and reading essays about the movie, truly understanding everything between the lines and what scholars have to say about it. I convince myself that a movie with so much depth and passion has to be good, right? So I proceed to rewatch the movie with all my extra knowledge, and I come away with the conclusion that the movie is still just fine. Depth doesn't equal quality. I understand how much time Lucas put into these movies. I've watched so many videos talking about Anakin and his arc and what Lucas's intentions were. I've listened to interviews from Lucas himself where he dives even deeper into his ideas. All this is awesome and there is so much to learn, but at the end of the day, depth doesn't matter. Quality matters. How well conveyed are these ideas? Are the scenes able to evoke the right emotions? This is where Revenge of the Sith struggles for me. Throughout this video, I'm gonna go through the movie and look at the parts of it that work and the parts that don't work. For the parts that do work, I'm gonna explain how the movie alone did the legwork to build up and pay off certain moments. And for the parts that don't work, I'm gonna explain how the movie didn't do that legwork. How even though I understand what Lucas was going for, it wasn't enough to evoke the right emotion in me. The other
All right, chat. I gotta go somewhere real quick. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go to the gas station. I gotta get something. I'm gonna change my laundry too.
unique aspect of this video is that it's not my first time doing a retrospective on Revenge of the Sith. 2 years ago, I made Revenge of the Sith 18 years later. I made a lot of points in that video. Because so
Yo, I'm back.
wasn't enough to evoke the right emotion in me. The other unique aspect of this video is that it's not my first time doing a retrospective on Revenge of the Sith. 2 years ago, I made Revenge of the Sith 18 years later. I made a lot of points in that video. Because so many people love the movies and I don't, I got a lot of comments from people refuting my arguments and countering my points. There are some examples where my mind was changed and I want to give credit to this movie where I didn't before. But there are also a lot of examples of counter arguments where I feel people are writing the movie for George Lucas. Because Lucas was such a deep thinker and because he had a plan for everything, that must justify certain flaws within the movie, right? Well, I disagree. So what I'm going to do is go through the 5 main plot lines in this movie and how I kind of felt let down by them. So we have Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship, Palpatine's plan, Anakin's fall to the dark side, Obi-Wan's side adventures, and Padme's death. So let's begin by talking about Anakin and Obi-Wan. I've always stated that the opening act of Revenge of the Sith is my favorite part of the movie. Sure, the action is great, the CGI is much better than before, and the sequence is overall just fun, but the main reason I love this sequence so much is because it's the only time in the trilogy that Anakin and Obi-Wan actually feel like they like each other. For me, the most important part of the trilogy was Anakin's fall to the dark side, and the second most important part of the trilogy was Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship. I thought the most powerful thing this trilogy could do was not show the tragedy of the fall of the Republic or the Jedi all dying, but these two brothers having to fight each other. That's what Lucas was going for, right? The end of the Mustafar fight was supposed to be the most devastating part of the movie. For me, their relationship just doesn't work. Fans will go through great lengths to try and convince me how close these two characters actually are. They'll repeatedly tell me to watch the Clone Wars. I've seen dozens of comments like this. I've also seen people...
Yeah, that's the thing about the Clone Wars is it retroactively made the prequels better. But if you just go based off of what happened in the movie, it's not that great of a relationship. Don't get me wrong. I love the movie. Revenge of the Sith is still my favorite Star Wars. But their relationship is weird. It's like they don't even like each other that much most of the time.
Bring up the most niche arguments possible, like the famous moment where Anakin and Obi-Wan twirl their lightsabers behind their backs for 3 seconds before they try and strike each other. The moment I felt pure rage was when you talked about how Anakin and Obi-Wan flared their lightsabers without touching while they were fighting on Mustafar. They both practiced the same form but opposite each other. It's beautiful. Yeah, as if George Lucas was definitely thinking about lightsaber forms when he filmed this scene. Now, the weak relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan is honestly mostly the fault of the previous 2 movies rather than this one. The Phantom Menace barely showed these two interacting with each other. I think Obi-Wan talks to Anakin twice in the Phantom Menace.
Yep.
Attack of the Clones, the two act like they hate each other. So come Revenge of the Sith, the opening act of the movie is the only time where I can point to something and say, yes, these two are brothers that actually like each other. I find the decisions that Lucas made in the other 2 movies to be quite baffling, to be honest. Now, I always get counter arguments saying Anakin's relationship with Obi-Wan needed to be this way. The whole point of Anakin's downfall was that Obi-Wan was not the right master for Anakin. Qui-Gon was. I hate this argument so much. Yeah, it makes sense. I get that Lucas decided to write Obi-Wan in a way where he was not a perfect master for Anakin. No one said George Lucas needed to go down this path. The Phantom Menace should have had Obi-Wan being the one fighting to train Anakin as a Jedi, not Qui-Gon. Obi-Wan's story should have been a tragedy through and through. I want him to end up as miserable as possible because of how painful Anakin's fall to the dark side was. If Obi-Wan was the one who went to the Jedi Council and fought for Anakin to be trained, despite the Council saying they sensed fear in Anakin, then that hurts Obi-Wan so much more at the end of the trilogy. This way, Obi-Wan feels directly responsible for the fall of the Republic in a way. A huge part of making a story tragic is that you want to show the alternative. You want the audience to think, oh, we were so close to getting this. We were so close to having these characters happy. We were so close to proving these characters correct. Say in The Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan comes across a slave boy who is strong with the Force. Obi-Wan goes to his master and says, we can't just leave this little boy in slavery. Let's bring him back to become a Jedi. Qui-Gon disagrees, but Obi-Wan holds firm in his belief in doing what's right, and he won't leave this little boy behind. Eventually, Obi-Wan wins out, and he's able to free Anakin and train him. A handful of Jedi criticize Obi-Wan for this decision, but Obi-Wan doesn't care because he knows what he is doing is right. Say throughout Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan and Anakin act like best friends. Sure, they may bicker once in a while, but they're brothers, that's what brothers do. Come the end of Revenge of the Sith, it turns out everyone else was right. Anakin becomes evil, and Obi-Wan was betrayed because of his good heart. At the end of the movie, he has to sit there knowing that it's all on him, which is why he becomes so jaded in the original trilogy. He wants Luke to kill Vader because he is still so heartbroken by what happened. That is tragic. Just thinking about that makes me feel sick for Obi-Wan. But instead, we needed this story where Qui-Gon had to vouch for Anakin and Obi-Wan was against it. I get it. Qui-Gon was the master Anakin needed. Just because it makes sense doesn't mean it was the right decision. People will bring this up. I'll say I don't like it, and they'll still recite the same thing Dave Filoni said in that one interview. This interview pisses me off so much, not because what he said is inherently wrong or anything, but because the sentiment that Qui-Gon was the master Anakin needed is not expressed in the films. If I asked 1,000 people who have never seen Star Wars before to watch these movies, none of them would come away with this Qui-Gon take. I have been a Star Wars fan my whole life. I can't even tell you the first Star Wars movie I ever saw because I was so young when I watched the original films. Never in my roughly 22 years of existence did anyone ever make this argument about Qui-Gon until Dave Filoni brought it up. This is because this point is not properly conveyed in the movie. Qui-Gon is only mentioned twice in the second two films, once by Count Dooku and once by Yoda. Anakin is never spoken about or talks about Qui-Gon in the second two films. And I'm supposed to believe Qui-Gon's absence was a crucial part of Anakin's story? I don't buy it. Let's talk.
Wasn't there a Star Wars theory video on what would happen if Anakin was trained by Qui-Gon?
Theme of the video. After hearing this stuff about Qui-Gon from George Lucas and Dave Filoni, it absolutely adds more depth to the movies. I think it's an interesting idea that a big part of Anakin's fall was because he didn't have the right master. This storyline from George Lucas definitely adds more layers to the prequels, but depth doesn't equal quality. What I honestly care about the most is how stories make me feel. I have been told Revenge of the Sith is a tragic movie. So which version of Anakin's story is more tragic to me? The one where Qui-Gon vouched for Anakin and Obi-Wan didn't? Or the one where Obi-Wan vouched for Anakin and Qui-Gon didn't? Considering the final duel of the trilogy is Anakin vs. Obi-Wan and not Anakin vs. Qui-Gon, I would choose Obi-Wan vouching for Anakin. In my previous video, I mentioned how my most hated scene in the movie is Obi-Wan and Yoda learning about Anakin turning to the dark side. Obi-Wan's reaction to his supposed brother turning to the dark side pisses me off. I hate that he had such an emotionless reaction to such a deep
I can't
betrayal.
watch anymore.
But I was told because Lucas was such a deep thinker that this can't simply be bad direction or bad writing. Lucas actually wrote Obi-Wan to be in shock. This is what I've been told repeatedly. Let's pretend for a second that Obi-Wan didn't scream and cry when Qui-Gon died. Fine, even if this is in character for Obi-Wan, does that make for a better scene? Which would have more of an impact on the audience? Obi-Wan showing emotion or being emotionless? There's also so many better ways to depict shock. Like there's that one scene in Rogue One after Jyn listens to her father's message and she just falls to the ground in tears. This is a much more powerful scene than Obi-Wan Kenobi finding out Anakin Skywalker turned to the dark side. I don't need Obi-Wan wailing and screaming on the ground. Just something more emotional than, it can't be, I can't watch anymore. Boring. Now, I need to specify
I can't
that
watch
the ending of
anymore.
This movie doesn't entirely fall flat. As I said before, the opening act during the Battle of Coruscant was excellent. I love the banter between these two. There's some deleted scenes I thought could have made this even better.
I'm not a protocol droid.
I'm pretty sure that Beep is down.
I sense Count Dooku is above us.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.
But when I watch the end of the movie and Obi-Wan is devastated, I don't feel nothing. I just wish I could have felt more. I have a take that is going to piss off prequel fans so much, but I gotta speak the truth. The emotional outburst at the end of the Obi-Wan show was more impactful than the end of the Mustafar fight. The Obi-Wan show is not great and it has its flaws, but the one thing it did excellent—
Yeah, I don't know about that one, buddy. I don't know about that one. That's a little too extreme of a take.
Was show how much Obi-Wan cared for Anakin. So when he cries at the end and says he's sorry, that moment actually makes me feel devastated for Obi-Wan. Unfortunately, Revenge of the Sith doesn't make me feel that way. Revenge of the Sith did a lot to build Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship, but unfortunately, it didn't do enough. The next big part of this movie is Palpatine's plan. The entire prequel trilogy really hinders on Palpatine's plan to turn the Republic into an empire, kill all the Jedi, and turn Anakin to the dark side. Obviously, the wider scope of his plan is pretty clear. Become Chancellor, start a war, use that war as a means to consolidate power, and then become Emperor. Makes sense. But when it comes to his plans in each specific prequel, they make no damn sense. Either that or everything perfectly happens to go Palpatine's way. The Battle of Coruscant is one of the best examples of this. So here are the things that are safe to assume. Palpatine orchestrated his own capture to start the Battle of Coruscant. Why did he do this? I looked this up because I wanted to see if there was a definitive answer, but I couldn't get one. The most common answer I got was to kill Dooku. Palpatine knew the Clone Wars were ending, he knew it was time to manipulate Anakin, so that also means it is time to get rid of Dooku. Makes sense. Now I find it strange that Palpatine needed to orchestrate an entire space battle in order to accomplish this, but I can accept it. I've seen other people talk about Palpatine using this battle to gain more control of the Republic. Having a battle be right at the heart of the Republic could scare senators and make them desperate to end the war, thus giving Palpatine more power so he can end the war. I love this explanation, except it's not even remotely addressed in the movie. I've also seen comments that say Palpatine was under investigation by the Jedi and starting the battle over Coruscant threw the Jedi off his trail. That's pretty cool, but not even remotely mentioned in the movies. I've even seen people mention that it was actually a plan to kill Obi-Wan to motivate Anakin towards the dark side. The point I'm trying to get at is that it's not clear what exactly Palpatine's plan was. This is where I get really frustrated because people will say I'm nitpicking or that we're not privy to the details of Palpatine's plan. I just so deeply disagree with this philosophy. Palpatine's plan is maybe the most important part of the trilogy. The Battle of Coruscant is the only battle in any Star Wars film where we don't understand why the battle is happening. We know the battle was intentional from Palpatine, that much is clear, because if it wasn't intentional, then why is the Separatist fleet still over Coruscant? They captured Palpatine. Why not simply leave and go back to the heart of the Confederacy with the Chancellor of the side you're at war with? According to some reference guides, Sidious ordered Grievous to hold his position over Coruscant instead of fleeing. This is laughably stupid. Why would any Separatist agree to this plan? So, if the battle was intentional, then what was Palpatine's plan? Most people don't question this because George Lucas is such a deep thinker. These basic questions don't need to be answered in the movie because we know George Lucas thought it through. There's no way he just wrote this entire sequence to perfectly go Palpatine's way. He thought of a secret plan for Palpatine, he just doesn't want to tell the audience. Give me a break. If your excuse for why something doesn't make sense is the villain had a plan the writer just doesn't want you to know about, you are simply excusing poor writing. People rightfully rip to shreds Palpatine's plan in The Rise of Skywalker because it makes no damn sense. But when it comes to the prequels, since George Lucas wrote it, it actually makes sense. Bullshit. Now let's move on from the Battle of Coruscant and look at the rest of the movie. Palpatine just needs to convince Anakin to turn to the dark side and betray the Jedi. So many things need to go Palpatine's way in order for this to happen. Now, in my previous video, I criticized the whole Anakin on the Council storyline. I said Palpatine knew these things would happen, and that makes him an all-powerful being. I retract that criticism. These are more likely than not decent examples of Palpatine just taking advantage of situations in front of him. What bothers me the most is that Palpatine's entire plan in this movie revolves around something he magically finds out about and never controls. Anakin randomly having visions that his wife will die is the biggest plot convenience in the entire franchise. The whole plot of this movie, and actually the trilogy as a whole, stems around Anakin randomly having visions of people he loves dying. It's never implied what causes these visions. It's just the perfect thing that allows Palpatine to manipulate him. Now, this isn't necessarily the bad part. The bad part is that Palpatine is able to know all these things. He knows Anakin's having these dreams, he knows that Padme is Anakin's wife, and he knows the Jedi aren't helping him. Seriously, how does Palpatine know all of this? Never does Anakin even mention Padme to Palpatine, and then all of a sudden Palpatine just brings it up out of the blue? The defense of this storyline pisses me off the most. People will actually counter my argument by saying Palpatine's force power is that he can literally see how things will turn out, that he can somehow see the future. They point to one line in Return of the Jedi where
if he could see how things were gonna turn out, how did he not see Vader murdering him at the end of the movie?
Palpatine says, "Everything has gone as I have foreseen." And they take that as him literally meaning he can see the future. Except he didn't see that Vader was going to kill him.
Yeah.
If this is true, which I'm not sure that it is, only Star Wars fans can look at a villain who can literally see everything that's going on and read everyone's minds and say he's one of the best villains in movie history. I hate this so much. In any other movie or book ever made, people would consider this terrible writing. Other defenses that people often make for this is that it's not hard to figure out that Anakin is in a secret relationship with Padme. This is actually kind of fair. Even Obi-Wan figures this out. I've even gotten a handful of comments saying it's reasonable to assume that Palpatine has spies that were able to figure this out. At this point, people are actually just writing the movie for George Lucas. Nowhere is it even remotely mentioned or implied that Palpatine has spies or that Anakin is being spied on. Regardless, none of these reasons explain how Palpatine knows that Anakin is having visions of Padme dying. Literally, only he and Padme know about this. The only logical explanation is, of course, that Palpatine can use the Force to read people's minds. This isn't entirely unheard of. In Return of the Jedi, Vader was able to see into Luke's mind that he had a sister. We obviously see in the sequels Kylo reading people's minds. I just feel those situations are a bit different. Like, Vader didn't see every single thought Luke was having. I just got the vibe that Vader could sense that Luke was thinking about his sister, not specifically what he was thinking about. And with the sequels, Kylo had to make a concerted effort to dig deep into someone's mind. He couldn't just do it off a whim. I get Palpatine is the most powerful Sith Lord ever, but I still think it's too big of a leap in logic for me to accept. The reason this frustrates me so much is because these individual scenes with Palpatine and Anakin are mostly well done. We have a 40-minute stretch of the movie where we pretty much just get people talking to each other. Lucas does a great job at making these scenes feel interesting and captivating. The Darth Plagueis scene is a fantastic scene. The mystery surrounding this story and the acting from both McDermott and Christensen makes it such an intriguing scene. The writing in this movie is so much better than the previous two movies. It just feels like at times it's undermined by incredible plot conveniences and the poor writing surrounding Palpatine. Palpatine could have done literally anything in this movie, and fans would still defend it, saying that was George Lucas's intention. Palpatine has plans in this movie that make no damn sense. Or they make sense because he's able to see everything everywhere all at once, and I hate that. Before continuing on with the rest of this video, only 18% of viewers are subscribed to this channel. So if you're
What the
enjoying this video,
fuck?
please
How
consider
is his
subscribing for more
subscribe
content like this.
ratio
Thank
that
you.
low?
Now, what's directly
This guy
related
makes amazing videos. I don't know how the hell it's like that.
to Palpatine's plan is, of course, Anakin's fall to the dark side. This is, without question, the most important part of the trilogy. Does the movie get me to accept that Anakin would not only turn to the dark side to save his wife, but kill all the Jedi to save his wife? It does not. Now, it needs to be emphasized that the previous two movies hold a big share of the blame. By the time we get to this movie. We already know Anakin and Padme are in love. Their relationship has been established. It is the job of the previous two movies to get us to care about this relationship. Unfortunately, those films failed at this in spectacular fashion. The romance story in Attack of the Clones is frankly terrible, and it makes this movie suffer because of it. But let's ignore that and just focus on this movie. So the middle act of Revenge of the Sith is entirely devoted to Anakin's turn. What I love about this sequence is the time Lucas puts into developing Anakin. Most of these scenes have nothing to do with the Clone Wars or even the plot with Grievous. It's just Anakin talking with people about his feelings. Anakin is the only character in this trilogy to get these kinds of scenes. And while in the past, I think they made Anakin an incredibly unlikable person, here they do a better job at showing him as a flawed and vulnerable young man. In my previous video, I made the claim that Anakin looks like an idiot in this movie. Palpatine's manipulation at times feels so obvious. While I partially stand by that point, it is somewhat understandable that a character under such emotional distress would be gullible to someone's manipulation. So I'm gonna be a bit more lenient here. I think people would be a lot more forgiving of Anakin if he was actually a likable character in the previous movie, but Attack of the Clones made him so creepy and so desperate that it turns me off from him. Prequel lovers will argue the point that this was, of course, intentional from Lucas. Lucas wanted to show the realistic traits of someone with emotional issues such as Anakin. I get that, and I respect the depth Lucas tried to give Anakin, but we need to go back to the same thing I've said all video. Just because it makes sense, that doesn't automatically mean it's good for the story. Depth doesn't equal quality. Would you prefer this version of Anakin that has some depth, or a version of the character that's smart and likable, so I actually feel bad when he turns to the dark side? I would choose the latter. One small moment that drives me crazy is the very scene where Anakin turns to the dark side. All movie Palpatine had been promising that he can help Anakin save Padme. When the moment comes, Palpatine says, "Oh, I don't know how to save Padme, but if we work together, we can discover the secret." What? I would be furious if I was Anakin. This is not what Palpatine promised Anakin at all. This moment also makes me not feel bad for Anakin. How am I supposed to feel bad for Anakin when he's often made to look like an idiot? Also, at the end of the day, it's the actor's job to sell that emotional distress that Anakin is going through. Other than Anakin repeatedly saying, "I'm not gonna lose you the way I lost my mother," do I feel like Anakin is about to lose his mind? Do I feel like he's actually going through the most stressful period of his life? With the exception of one scene, I don't feel this way. Hayden Christensen is without question better in this movie than he was in Attack of the Clones, but the role of Anakin Skywalker is a very demanding role. You need an extremely talented actor to portray that emotional distress that Anakin is going through. Unfortunately, I don't think Hayden Christensen was able to pull it off. The best scene of the movie is without question the scene where Anakin and Padme stare at each other across Coruscant. This is a scene that convinces me of Anakin's emotional distress. Maybe a big reason why is because there's no dialogue. Lucas's dialogue is so bad that it often takes me out of the scenes, but since there's no dialogue here, the scene is actually good. Regardless, this is how you show internal turmoil. The other scene that I think does a decent job with Anakin's turmoil is the Yoda scene. Anakin goes to have this conversation with Yoda. This conversation triggers me, but not in a bad way, I guess. Many of you may know that I hate Yoda in the prequels, and not a mild dislike, I really hate him. He is a bona fide idiot. Not once does he say anything intelligent. All that wisdom that he had in the originals is completely lost here. So Yoda basically tells Anakin to get over himself. It doesn't matter that he's scared and can't process his emotions. He tells Anakin to learn to ignore them. This scene makes me hate Yoda even more while having me empathize with Anakin somewhat. Me being furious with Yoda puts me in Anakin's shoes, and I'm able to somewhat get behind him, something I don't feel the rest of the movie is able to accomplish. This is evident in a lot of different storylines. The one I like going to is Anakin becoming a master. Of course, Anakin is denied the rank of master, and this pisses him off. This storyline is supposed to be a major catalyst for Anakin losing trust in the Jedi Order and eventually killing them all off. We are told that we should feel Anakin's frustration here. After that scene, he is clearly pissed off, but at no point in the trilogy had Anakin ever expressed any interest in becoming a master. So Anakin being irate over this doesn't feel earned. Now, a lot of people have pointed out that Anakin's frustration is less about him not being a master and more about him feeling disrespected. I can get behind this somewhat more than I did before, but I feel like it's not enough to get me on his side. One of the more common replies I've gotten about this whole Anakin becoming a master situation is that Anakin supposedly wanted to get access to the Jedi archives. Apparently, only Jedi Masters have access to the archives, and Anakin thought that there was information there that could help him save Padme.
That does
This is a
make
plot
sense.
point in the novelization of Revenge of the Sith that absolutely should have been in this movie. This would have been something that I actually could have gotten behind. Say Anakin asks Palpatine to appoint him as his personal representative on the council so he can get access to the archives. Palpatine agrees, but of course Anakin is still denied the rank of master. This way the Jedi are breaking a 1,000-year precedent just for Anakin, and they are still preventing him from saving his wife. That is an excellent catalyst for Anakin feeling like he has no choice but to kill all the Jedi later on. But unfortunately, the movie never touches on this, and thus Anakin's character suffers because of it. I want to quickly touch back on the whole vision thing, because yes, it feels like a total plot convenience, but when you think about it, it isn't really necessary for the story. What if instead of having visions of Padme dying, Padme actually becomes sick before childbirth? He and Padme go to the doctor or something, and they mention that Padme could likely die from this pregnancy. This would then set the plot into motion of Anakin needing to save her. This could also be how Palpatine finds out about Anakin. He doesn't magically read his mind, he's friends with Padme, so he would likely find out about this and then put 2 and 2 together and realize Anakin is the father. And then when Padme actually ends up dying, it's because of this illness, not because she lost the will to live, something I'll touch on later. Now, I may have issues with how Anakin turned to the dark side, but once he is actually on the dark side, I mostly like what I see. In the scene on Mustafar where he's talking to Padme, I love the slow realization that you realize how crazy Anakin has become. It's also the perfect progression of turning to the dark side. It would be one thing if Anakin killed all these Jedi and then didn't actually change. Seeing him spew all this nonsense about the Empire and ruling the galaxy was psychotic. I loved it. I will say this though, Anakin does say some suspect things. Like he says, "I should have known the Jedi were plotting to take over." Does he actually believe this? What would lead him to think the Jedi were trying to take over? Mace Windu trying to kill Palpatine? The very thing he knew would happen when he spoke to Mace about Palpatine? It's so strange, but that's just a minor thing. The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are a big part in why Anakin—
I should have known the Jedi were plotting to take over. I loved the delivery of that line. I don't know why, I just think it's so funny.
Dark side doesn't work in this movie. While Revenge of the Sith does make some strides to make it better, ultimately it didn't get the job done. Anakin's fall feels rushed and not earned at all. Now, while this is all going on with Anakin, we have Obi-Wan on the other side of the galaxy briefly fighting General Grievous and the Separatists. From a plot perspective, sure, this sequence is important. All the Separatist leaders are here, and it's stated that killing Grievous would end the war. So that means all this is important, right? Wrong. This entire sequence is pure action and nothing else. There's no character work, no deep themes explored or anything, just straight plot. The reason this side adventure for Obi-Wan existing is pretty clear. Lucas needs Anakin to fall to the dark side. In order for that to happen, Obi-Wan can't be around. Also, Obi-Wan needs to be able to survive Order 66, and there's no way he'd be able to do that if he was on Coruscant with Anakin. So instead of giving Obi-Wan something meaningful to do, something that actually impacts the story and the arcs of this movie, just send him off to some random ass planet and give him a giant robot to fight. Sure, the sequence is fun. Watching Obi-Wan ride a giant lizard and fighting a cyborg with 4 lightsabers is pretty awesome, but I just wish there was something more going on here. My big disappointment with Obi-Wan in this entire trilogy is that he never has anything meaningful to do. In The Phantom Menace, he's sidelined for most of the movie. In Attack of the Clones, he goes on an investigation to track down Jango Fett, but is there any arc there? Any way for Obi-Wan to grow and change? No. And in this movie, it's just more plot for him and no story. Go rescue the Chancellor, go fight Grievous and end the war. No story, just plot. Many people have suggested that the trilogy would have greatly benefited from Maul surviving the Phantom Menace and dying in Revenge of the Sith. And I definitely agree with this. Say instead of Grievous, Maul was one of the generals of the Separatists. In order to end the war, Obi-Wan must kill Maul. There could be a really interesting story here with Obi-Wan. Say after the Battle of Coruscant, Obi-Wan and the Jedi are told that if they kill Maul, they can end the war. Obi-Wan volunteers himself because he wants to avenge Qui-Gon's death. While this is happening, Anakin goes to Obi-Wan for some advice. He won't blatantly tell Obi-Wan about Padme and his visions, but he clearly just needs a friend right now. Instead of being there for Anakin in his time of need, Obi-Wan's personal need for revenge results in him leaving Anakin to go fight Maul. Frankly, the entire Utapau sequence can be the same. Eventually, Obi-Wan will fight and kill Maul, finally getting his revenge he's craved for over a decade. However, what Obi-Wan eventually comes to realize is that because he wasn't there for Anakin on Coruscant, Anakin went to Palpatine instead for comfort and advice. And because Anakin went to Palpatine, he was seduced to the dark side. In the chat that you have on Mustafar before they fight, Anakin can be mad at Obi-Wan for not being there when he needed it. So instead of Anakin spewing dialogue about freedom, justice, and security, there can be more
To my new empire.
Anakin directed towards Obi-Wan. You are my master, but you weren't there for me. Obi-Wan eventually has to live with the guilt that Anakin's turn to the dark side is partially his fault. He prioritized his own needs over the needs of his brother, and look what happened. Not only does this add a bit more personal tension between the two on Mustafar, but it also adds to Obi-Wan's heartbreak. As you guys know, I am totally in favor of making Obi-Wan suffer as much as possible.
Oh my
By
god.
the way, General Grievous is still the worst character in the entirety of Star Wars. I hate everything about him. His sole existence is just to look cool to fight Obi-Wan, and I hate that. Obi-Wan in this entire trilogy was frankly disappointing. Ewan McGregor is awesome in the role, I just wish he had more to do. And my rewrite with Maul could have made his story just a little bit better. Now, of all the things I spoke about in my previous video, the thing I got the most pushback on was my take on Padme's death. I am on the record saying that I hate Padme's death and I think it makes her weak. I've never liked Padme as a character, never in any movie or show, but I can acknowledge that she was a strong woman. As a 14-year-old girl, she stood up to the Trade Federation as her planet was being invaded. In Attack of the Clones, she was constantly under the threat of assassination and she never backed down once. So it's disappointing that in this movie, it's her husband becoming evil that all of a sudden makes her want to lose the will to live. Now, there are two arguments I want to make with this. I think I didn't get my point across properly in my previous video. I got comments from people talking about how dying from sadness or a broken heart is absolutely a real thing. Actually, dying from sadness is possible and lots of very social animals do die because of that, but it's rare. I also got comments talking about Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, which happens when there's a heart failure because of severe stress. I am not arguing that dying of sadness or dying from a broken heart is not a real thing. I also got a lot of comments from people discussing postpartum depression. I am not trying to argue that people who suffer from any sort of mental illness are weak. I apologize if I came across that way. What I am trying to argue is that you guys are giving George Lucas more credit than he deserved. I don't believe he intended for Padme to suffer from any sort of mental illness or any other condition. I have watched more Star Wars behind the scenes material than any other franchise. I would be shocked if there was a George Lucas interview out there where he said something that seriously changed my view of his approach to Star Wars. I have never heard him talk about mental illness or any other condition when it comes to Padme's death. He simply wanted Padme to die from losing the will to live. That line, losing the will to live, is why I call her a weak character. If she actually died from some mental illness or condition, that's not her fault. That's a serious thing people go through. But that's not what happened. She lost the will to live. That simple. She did not have the willpower to fight for her two newborn children. So she is weak and she abandoned her kids. Some people who criticize me for being too harsh on Padme are the same people who call Luke a bitch in The Last Jedi. Both are mental illness, right? Now let's pretend for a second that Lucas did intend for her to have some sort of serious condition. I wouldn't believe it, but let's pretend. This is such a disappointing way to end her story, and frankly a false representation of mental illness. If you're going to play the mental illness card, then I'm gonna take that seriously. Mental illness is not something you show no symptoms of, develop immediately, and then die. It's something that people suffer with for a long time, and that's not something that's ever even remotely shown with Padme. But even then, the alternative is so much better than showing Padme dying this way, and that's Anakin actually killing her. I know they say that through his anger he killed Padme and made her lose the will to live, but I'm talking about something more direct, such as Anakin.
Yeah. Okay. But listen to what you just said and then watch the show. Or no, not the show. Watch the fucking movie. Because it's fucking Palpatine that's telling him that. He's a liar. He's a sleazy little liar, dude. You fucking little liar, dude. What's that? What's that Hassan clip? YouTube. Weasley little liar, dude.
Nothing I do is performative. So I'm not going to, for instance, I'll use Hassan as an example. I'm not going to talk to a black person like Trihex and say, hey, the N-word, it's always black. What do you think black people?
What a fucking liar, dude. What a fucking
Weasley little liar, dude.
What a fucking
Weasley little liar, dude. I fucking love that clip. That clip's my favorite thing ever. What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude.
But I'm talking about something more direct, such as Anakin actually breaking her neck or crushing her esophagus. I know that's probably too dark for Star Wars, but I mean, hey, we just got something really serious in Andor. Maybe Anakin pushes Padme and she hits her head or something if you don't want to get that dark. That could be something better. In short, I don't like the way Padme died. Mental illness or not, it was...
Okay, I gotta watch Andor, because what the fuck is going on in that show right now? I'm not going back to that headline of that news article, but if I just saw what the fuck I thought I saw, what the fuck? I love the first season. I need to re-up my Disney Plus subscription so I can watch the show.
It was a disappointing way to end her story. Now, I obviously have my frustrations with the writing in this movie, and how I feel people give Lucas too much of the benefit of the doubt. But none of that takes away from what I feel are the two biggest reasons why this movie is still so popular. The first is that the movie is actually well made. Yeah, I think the writing is sketchy in a lot of places, but on a scene-by-scene basis, the movie is simply fun to watch. This is an element of film discourse that I feel has been completely lost. Sure, sometimes things don't make sense, and sure, sometimes there are plot holes. And those things absolutely matter, but sometimes these movies are so well acted, scored, filmed, edited, that it's unquestionably fun to watch. This video is hopefully releasing on Saturday, April 26th. On that day, I have tickets to go see Revenge of the Sith in theaters for the 20th anniversary with a handful of my friends. I promise you I'm going to have such a fun time.
It actually
Why?
did.
Because Revenge of the Sith is a fun movie.
What the fuck?
YouTube film discourse overlooks this because
It actually did come out today.
enjoyment is 100% subjective. You can dissect plot holes and plot progression and character motivations, but you can't dissect enjoyment. That is something that needs to be spoken about more, that some movies are simply enjoyable. Now, the other big reason people still love this movie, and people will deny it, but it's unquestionably true, is because of the memes. Revenge of the Sith is maybe the most memed movie of all time. Without exaggeration, I think at least half the lines of dialogue I have seen as memes before. There are even conversations where 3 straight lines of dialogue have their own individual meme.
I've been looking forward to this.
My powers have doubled since the last time we met, Count.
Good. Twice the pride, double the force.
Hell, if you don't believe me how popular meme culture has become, it is having an active effect on modern Star Wars storytelling. Do you think at the end of Obi-Wan Kenobi, when Obi-Wan walked straight to the camera and said hello there, the significance behind that meme had no part in its inclusion? You'd be clueless to suggest otherwise. I have even gotten comments before from people who have admitted they love the prequels because of the memes. It's not a lot of people, but a handful. I don't judge people if they want to watch movies because of the memes. Whatever gives you the most amount of enjoyment from watching a movie, I 100% support you. It's hard to not love memes. I don't blame fans for enjoying a movie more because of the plethora of memes. I just wish people would be more honest about it. Now, regardless of how popular the movie is today, how does it compare to the rest of the Star Wars franchise, and how does it compare to itself 20 years ago? But before we wrap up, I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for anyone who wants to stand out online or start a business. Whether you're a content creator like me, or someone who wishes to start their own movie blog, Squarespace is perfect for you. If you sign up today, you can use Blueprint AI to get a fully custom website in just a few steps. Squarespace also offers a complete library of professionally designed and award-winning website templates, so you can use it to build your own beautiful page that will capture your audience in a way that only you can.
All right, that was a good video. Hello? Oh, there we go. Sketch and Senna play Marvel Rivals. Whoa, what? This is where Sketch lives now? That's insane. Bro has a Feastables vending machine?
Ten gifted from Lunch Butters. Thank you, bro. You've got me. Look at all the numbers there. All the numbers. Where did the chat go? Why is the
The fuck is wrong with this audio?
chat?
Brother.
Did I lose the chat here? Oh. Listen, it's okay. Everything will make sense in 2 minutes.
I need the banana suit back.
No, you don't. I'm not giving you shit back. And stop typing in my TTS, motherfucker. Sorry for cussing.
Double clap, brother.
Okay, it's over here. I just need support, and I'm gonna do a lot better. That's what's gonna be good about having Senna. I play better with teammates. I really do. It's always better with teammates. Smoking this fool. Come on, guys. I'll just message you.
What did I just skip to?
I'm just kidding. You know where I'll take you is there's actually one place in Austin that only like serves everything like in jalapenos. It's pretty sick.
So you want? Hold on, wait. Say that again one more time.
It like they serve you like shots and jalapenos. It's dope.
Okay.
I got drunk there, but I had a lot of heartburn for like 2 days.
We should do a drinking stream one day where we have.
Did he sign his camera?
Those like velociraptors with the small arms.
Listen, I used to like dinosaurs.
Or is that a watermark?
And then I watched.
Oh, hold on. There's people talking
No,
in game.
Senna!
What?
How do you know how many you played?
Oh, it must be a watermark.
Play and it's like that. You know where?
Do you not
It's like a
mute?
moose thing.
You said what?
How do you mute?
You go in the game and then you turn off voice chat.
For the first time in forever.
Yeah, I guess I can do it for you.
Oh my god, you're finally gonna play as a useful character.
I am useful.
I was finna say it was
Okay,
fun, but
I've been useful.
It gives you a damage boost and me a healing boost, I think.
You don't even spell useful first of all.
USEFUL.
Best little lens.
Exactly. Didn't go the way you thought it would.
The end has come.
Watch this. Spell cinnamon.
CINNAMON. Bitch.
Well, that was a layup. You're welcome.
Sketch, you still have no kills.
And you're judging me for. Okay. Right.
Bro just shot at the fake spider.
I have plenty of kills. I'm smoking these fools. Yep. Big kill there.
I just got a triple kill, by the way.
Really? What you triple killed a dollar menu at McDonald's? We're playing Marvel Rivals for free.
Do you go to those like women's aerobic classes when you work out?
Do you ever work out?
Because they don't let you on the big weights.
Are you considered big weight?
You do like those water classes with the old people.
Do they charge you extra to fly? Do they charge you extra to fly? Come on now. It's okay. Listen
See,
here.
but if I say that,
But see if you say what here?
you are so lucky we're sponsored. You're so lucky. I would be so mean to you if I could
Really?
beat.
You can't be mean. And you are mean. Okay?
Yeah, well, you're mean and ugly. At least I'm only one of those things.
Really? No one thinks I'm ugly. Look up sketch thirst. Okay.
There's no sketch thirst traps. Is there really?
No, there's not, but there could be. There really could be. People say I look like Matt Damon. They say it all the time. They say that I got stopped and someone said, "Can I get a photo, Matt?" And I said, "It's okay. I'm not Matt."
They think you're Matt Damon?
Yep. Someone in the chat said,
what are
"Cinna,
the
you
dead
look
bodies
like Guy Fieri from the neck down."
I'm sorry, but Sketch is actually so bad at this game.
Wow, congratulations, it's your first one in 3 games.
Really? Yep. And I just got a kill.
You can't just say really.
Yeah,
when,
I can
when
say
it's
really.
a true thing.
There's
There's
two things I say. And that one of them is that there's 2 things and I say one thing. Okay, so.
Sorry, someone called you Fat Damon and I couldn't focus.
They call me what?
They called you Fat Damon.
Sarah, you got 12 deaths and I got 6 deaths and 5 kills.
Yeah, well that's because I'm so distracted by your weird build, okay? I can't focus.
You're looking at me the whole time? That's a little weird. That's a little weird. Yep, just killed Jeff. No mercy.
You're actually
Kills Luna and says, "Oh, I just killed Jeff."
Kinda great, actually. Yep. Double kill.
Great is not the word that I think anybody would use for your performance.
Really, as Moonlight comes over here and no one warning me. And I got more
think
kills than you.
subpar,
Awesome job there.
subpar is an accurate description. Have you?
So
do you hear
that
the
was
phrase,
Luna.
Wow, that was fast a lot, because that seems like something you would hear.
Luna is Jeff now.
You know, possibly. Most of the time. Most of the time, it's just a bunch of, I have a girlfriend now, okay? And she's freaking.
She awesome?
Yep.
Wait, can I meet her?
Nope. She goes to a different school.
She goes to a different school.
Yep.
Does she ever hang out in Austin?
Nope.
So she never comes. You always fly to her?
Or drive or bike. Sometimes I'll bike.
Oh, they let you drive?
I can drive. Yes, I can.
They let
What do
you
mean they let
drive.
you drive? I've almost got. I used to have perfect vision at one point, and then I will have it again soon.
Peanuts and kick butts.
What do you mean you will? Are you getting LASIK?
Yes, I will get LASIK. Not because I have to, but because I want to.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, the world is gonna force you to get LASIK, so instead you're just like, well, it's not because you have to?
Try to make it yours.
No, the thing about LASIK is that they touch your eyeball, and I don't want them to touch my eyeball.
It's green and it makes me sad.
Sketch, I don't think a lot of people want to touch you regardless, so yeah, I do. 2020.
Really? You have
Crispy
2020.
clean.
A little help, please.
Something like that.
Try to make it last.
You will have a reduced vision over the next 5 years.
Did you just curse me? Okay, well, how about this? You will have no girlfriends over the next 5 years. Oh,
Wait
wait.
1 second. I'm gonna say it 3 times in a mirror. I'll be back.
Rounding back into action.
It's probably the longest you've ever been able to look at yourself in the mirror.
Cinna will have reduced vision over the next 5 years. Cinna will have reduced vision over the next 5 years. Cinna will have reduced vision over the next 5 years. Yep. That just happened. Don't make Papa angry. I'm just kidding.
Did you just? That is no woman has ever called you that. By the
No,
way.
they call me Daddy.
They do not call you that.
Okay. They call me
If
sir.
anything, they think you're like lost.
They call me sir.
You look like a young, senile man.
What is senile and what does I am? Thank you for calling me. I look like a young man. Awesome. I'm.
No, like you know when you see like you look like a young old senile man. You know, does that make sense?
You look like what do you call it? You look like catheter.
Like you fall
That's
fast.
been used 3 times and is for
Oh yeah, well you look like Donkey from Shrek.
really, and that guy is a movie star. So thank you very much.
No, you look like the new Donkey, the one that's coming out. Not
Really?
the cool one.
You look like I don't know. You look like a hairless cat that only wears jackets.
Put on a show.
Play
A
Marvel
hairless cat with
Rivals.
a jacket.
It's free now, and this game mode is called Cinema Mode. It's where
not
everyone
called
has a massive head.
Cinema mode.
It is called Cinema Mode.
What am I?
That is what that's what we're gonna trademark it as.
Sketch, you have 1 kill as Squirrel Girl, by the way.
Yep, I do have 1 kill with almost 80% accuracy.
I'm not done.
That's because you've only shot 1 time.
Really. As I have an ult.
Try to make it last.
Does your ult kill anyone?
Oh, really?
No, of course not.
Still turn this around.
Really. Dead man here. Killed him. All by myself.
Until showtime.
Okay, I'm changing out of Squirrel Girl, and I'm gonna go to someone who really gets the team going here. Which is Jeff. Everyone needs a Jeff in their life. I'm Cinna's Jeff. Isn't that true, Cinna?
You're in the lead now.
I heal
I
Cinna.
called Jeff. You know what's crazy?
What's
I
crazy?
have. Why did that kill not count?
They've come from behind.
What's crazy?
You can still turn this around. Action.
What's
What?
you gotta finish your sentence here. What's crazy?
No, it's because I got a kill and it didn't count.
Wait, is that what's crazy?
You're in the lead now.
Yes.
They've come from behind.
You know what's crazy?
You can still
Is how much I love Marvel Rivals.
Oh my, wait, me too. I love Marvel Rivals. He's stuck on the ledge, someone said.
Who's stuck on the ledge?
You.
I'm not stuck on no ledge.
I'm surprised you can even get close to the ledge. Do you play this game ever, Sketch?
I do play this game a lot. This
Sketch, how many hours do you have?
bro, I got more hours than you probably.
Alright, chat. I think I'm gonna end stream. It's been a fun day, though. I am beat, though.